The View is currently down a conservative host. So what would an answer to that prayer look like for you right now?
And so if holding court lets the good sisters know some of the legal remedies you need to be putting in place right now in order to protect one's assets and those of your future children, that is a job well done to me, and I appreciate that aspect of the show.
And you bring this woman on, put it all on her shoulders, and then she doesn't even get closure with the reunion. So that was my feeling about it, but I would love to know your feeling about it since it was you. Welcome to Comeback with Erica Cobb, where everyone's deserving of the comeback they're willing to earn. And my guest today has earned hers over and over again. She is currently the host and executive producer of Revolt Black News, which airs on Revolt TV, founded by Sean Diddy Combs. She's also the host and executive producer of the iHeart Media podcast, Holding Court with, and a cast member of Bravo TV's Real Housewives of New York City. Now, most recently, you may have seen her co-hosting on ABC News daytime Emmy show, The View. She has also guest co-hosted on nationally syndicated talk show, The Real, and served as a hot topics table expert on The Wendy Williams Show. She holds a BA in Communications and African American Studies from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and a JD from Loyola University, New Orleans College of Law. Eboni K. Williams, welcome to Comeback with Erica Cobb. So I have to say this because I think what's really happening in the space of the Twitterverse and beyond, one of the biggest controversies this year was the cancellation of the Real Housewives of New York reunion. And you were clearly blindsided because we saw a video of you picking up your super fabulous gown for the reunion when you got the call. So first, before I get your thoughts on it, I just want to share my Bravo-holic, because I am one, self-proclaimed. I found it very unsettling that for the first time, New York has a Black housewife. So fundamentally, race is already going to be a conversation regardless. But then you add on to it the biggest race movement in Bravo demographics lifetime, because it's like 18 to 54. So this is the biggest thing that happened was last summer in terms of social justice movement in the biggest city in America. And you bring this woman on, put it all on her shoulders, and then she doesn't even get closure with the reunion. So that was my feeling about it. But I would love to know your feeling about it since it was you.
Yeah, it was me, and I didn't like it, Erica. You know, I didn't like not getting a reunion. I've been very vocal about it, and the reasons are not dissimilar from what you outlined. I think that a lot went on our season, and to not have the very format that every other Housewives franchise of every other season and city, regardless of ratings, has had, which is to address all of the going-ons of the season in a reunion format, to not have it felt incomplete. It felt incomplete and it felt disappointing. And I don't do blame games, but it in general felt like a very important missed opportunity.
Right. I agree with that. I think that it left a lot of us who felt like we were vicariously living through you in terms of the experiences that you were sharing, and then also the moment that was so much pressure. Honestly, it was quite triggering sometimes to watch some of the scenes that they aired because, you know, I kept putting myself in that place, and I also empathized so much with you being on the spot for so many of these moments in a very, very polarizing time. So, but then also the conversation on social media was the cancellation because of the race narrative on the show. So what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think we'll ever really know, Erica. I do know that I know my position is this. The murder of Brother Floyd is beyond unspeakably horrible. It puts me in the mind of the bombing of the 4 little girls in Birmingham, oh so many years ago, 64. In the wake of that tragedy, as unspeakable as that was, the 4 little girls murdered before church. They were at Sunday school in Birmingham, known as Birmingham, Alabama. And they were bombed by the Klan. And their deaths sadly resulted in what was necessary for us to see real movement when it came to, at least that moment's, issues of race in this country. So from their deaths led to legislation around the 1964 Civil Rights Movement and statutes and act, and eventually led us to a Voting Rights Act in 68 and other things. I say that to say this. Some people look at Brother Floyd's murder and feel like it was a moment in time that we have moved on from. I do not. It was a moment in time in which I personally refuse to retreat from. I will not be going backwards. The toothpaste will not go back into the tube. It will not just be a PC moment, as some people I know have referred it to be. No, it is a line in the sand, a red line, if you will, that says, for me, Erica Cobb, there will no longer be a moment where you can pretend to not know. Now, you can do nothing about it. You can reiterate a status quo of white supremacy and anti-blackness and anti-Semitism and anti-whatever, right? I won't be going back. So, I sit here and speak to you today with polite persistence as to what charging ahead looks like, as to unringing. You can't unring this bell. Right. We know we have not, as a nation, lived up to our ideals and promises to Black people in this nation and to many other groups of people in this nation, including, our Asian community, our LGBTQ community, our Muslim community. We'd be here all day.
Right.
And so maybe I'm an outlier, and maybe I'm not, in the sense that I don't believe the show just must go on at all costs, right? I believe that if I want the show to go on, trust and believe, I'm a fan, I'm into all of it. I want it to go on with a renewed sense of consciousness and responsibility to the audience that we serve, right, and to the new generation that we impact.
Hey y'all, I'm Eboni K. Williams. Now I'm your host, also attorney at law. Welcome to Holding Court with Eboni K. Williams.
Let's talk about your podcast, because Holding Court with Eboni K. Williams, it's been we're pretty much speaking almost a year to the day that we did last year. And you were talking about Holding Court with Eboni K. Williams, and so much has happened. You described the podcast as a peer into the courtroom or the court of law. So what has been the case or famous face that is really that you've covered that the listeners have really gravitated to the most in the past year?
Oh, gosh. I would say that people really appreciated having direct understanding of what happened in the Cosby case, actually, after Mr. Cosby was released from custody. I think a lot of people in the culture were confused because it was such a high-profile case and so much had went down. And I think when we released, episodes of Holding Court that really unpacked the exact reason that Bill Cosby was eventually released, why that conviction was overturned, and how it is distinguished from what's happening with R. Kelly and his recent conviction, I think that really resonated with people.
Same question, but you personally, what has stuck with you the most of all the cases that you've covered?
This is going to be telling. Probably Halle Berry's palimony. Probably the good queen sis Halle Berry and her having to go to court, which makes sense because of her financial status, to ask for a reduction in her spousal support. In her child support to one of her child's fathers, Gabriel. And it stuck with me because I'm a woman with, a decent living that will only increase per God's will. And I think it's very important. I mean, listen, you guys to claim it.
Right.
And I think it's very important because when we talk about child support and spousal support and all of these, these tenets in family law that get people real in their feelings, because we launched Holding Court on the heels of the Dr. Dre divorce scandal, which is still ongoing. People always want to put this narrative out there of broke bitches, essentially, broke women, lurking and leeching off of wealthy men. And what I love about the Halle Berry episode, we saw it in the Kelly Clarkson episodes, we discussed Mary J. Blige, there are Sherry Shepherd, there are a litany of high-earning women out here, many of whom are Black, that are put in a financial situation and a legal situation in which they needed to be more careful. And so if Holding Court lets the good sisters know some of the legal remedies you need to be putting in place right now in order to protect one's assets and those of your future children, that is a job well done to me, and I appreciate that aspect of the show. Ooh. And it goes for men too, but it's to really eradicate that false narrative that it's always the woman running after the bag. Honey, good night.
Right. Okay.
Right.
So let's talk about this before you go, because you have been everywhere. And recently you guest co-hosted this little show called The View. Now, I was so into this. This is like, you were talking about your dreams realized. You were realizing all of our dreams, and we were sitting here clapping, because that's one of those, if you can see it, you can be it type things. Not necessarily on that platform, but just to that magnitude. So I read an article that quoted you. So you can tell me if the quote is correct. And secondly, I'll ask you to expound on it. You said the goal, like any other job audition or interview, right? Do well enough to be invited back. So that's my prayer. So my question is that quote accurate? Okay. And then I also have to ask this, because The View is currently down a conservative host. So what would an answer to that prayer look like for you right now?
Yeah, so the quote is correct. What I can tell you is my politics are pretty public. I am someone who has been, a very proud registered independent for over 18 years. You can listen to a ton of interviews where I talk about why that is the case. I do not represent any of these damn parties, because I don't think any of them have ever delivered on much well-being to the Black community. That is my opinion. Okay. So if I were to take a seat on that show or any other show, it would have to be in the vein of my point of view as a political analyst, as a legal expert, and as a color commentator on culture. So if they're looking for Karl Rove in a wig, that's not me. If they're looking for Chuck Schumer in a wig, that's not me. So it would have to be a platform, whether it's The View or anybody else who's listening to this conversation, to me, that is evolved enough to consider that this moment of political and cultural history requires more than a blue, red, right, left, stagnant talking points, partisan narrative. That this moment, that this audience in this moment deserves point of view that is more layered and nuanced and engaging than that old, to me, lazy formula.
Well, first of all, I'm getting this image of Schumer in a wig out of my head.
I can't do it. I just can't do it. I can't do it.
No.
Sorry to that man. Sorry to Karl Rove. Sorry to all of them. I cannot do it.
But I am definitely, I'm feeling what you're saying, because I feel like a lot of people, especially in our generation, are feeling that very same way. And the way that we were raised and the politics that we were raised on may not be our political beliefs, affiliation, or what we benefit from, or how we feel.
What we benefit from.
Right.
That part right there.
Yeah.
What we benefit from. That's because that's the only thing I'm pragmatically concerned about, Erica. This is not about shitting on Democrats or shitting on Republicans for me. It's just, let's look at what works and let's look at what has not worked for us. And for me, as the nerd that I am, I only care about the policy. That's it. I don't care about the politician. I don't care about the party. I don't care about the none of this shit. I only care about the policy and its net benefit to the communities it impacts. That is the conversation I want to have. So whoever seat that is, whoever table that is, that's what you can sign me up for.
Hey, It looks to me like you creating your own table. I'll come by.
Let's eat. Then let's eat, Erica. Let's go. Let's eat.
I'm like, I'll come by for a little meal. Just invite me over.
A little snack.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a light snack.
plate.
A dusting.
Yeah, I'll make you a plate.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well,
I'm
Eboni,
here for it,
before you go, let us know. Tell us where to find and follow you.
Yes. So please, y'all, Auntie gonna be on the Instagram. That's my platform of choice. So just Eboni K Williams, Eboni with an I, K Williams on Instagram, on Twitter and things. But really catch Auntie E on the gram. Mm-hmm.
Girl, Auntie E, you are too much. Come back, community. Thank you for joining us today. Check out more on Eboni as well as the full podcast, which is on my online home now, comeback.tv, where you'll find more information on Eboni K. Williams there. Thanks for watching.